Hi, I'm Bill from CJ Pony Parts. Recently we did a full install on an ATP Turbo upgrade kit for our 2015 Focus ST over on our sister channel Spool Tuning. It's a very cool install, so we figured a lot of our viewers over at CJ's might appreciate it, so today we're going to share it with you. The question I know a lot of you are going to ask is how much power did it make? Well, currently we're working with the guys up at Stratified Automotive Controls. They're going to set us up with a custom tune for this car. They tuned some of the fastest STs around, so we definitely have some high hopes for the power this thing is going to make. And we'll definitely have a dyno video in the future, but for now, enjoy the install. This bolt-on turbo upgrade kit from ATP Turbo is going to provide almost everything necessary to turn up the horsepower on your 2013 through 2015 Focus ST. The heart of the kit is going to be this Garrett mirror polished GTX2867R Turbo, which has a .64 AR. This is going to spool up a lot faster than the factory turbo on our Focus ST, and with the right supporting mods, will support almost 475 horsepower. The nice thing with this kit is it's going to be a direct bolt-on and a direct replacement for your factory turbo. It'll bolt to your stock flange, and it'll work with either a stock or aftermarket downpipe. The ATP Turbo kit comes with this built-in wastegate that's already set up for the turbo when you install it, but it does have a port if you want to add an aftermarket wastegate. ATP provides nearly everything necessary for the installation, including the oil feed lines, the coolant lines, all necessary fittings, silicone couplers, as well as the clamps. You will need custom tuning with this kit, and you will need to go with a new style blow-off valve. The stock turbo on your Focus ST is going to have the blow-off valve built right into the turbo. This aftermarket kit from ATP obviously is not, because it's going to be a larger turbo. What you'll need is to pick up a cold charge pipe mount for a blow-off valve available from several different manufacturers. For this installation, you'll need a lift or a jack and jack stands. You need a good selection of hand tools. There are no specialty tools required for this installation, but you will need a lot of basic hand tools, so make sure you've got a good selection before you begin the install. Almost all the installation of the ATP Turbo kit is going to take place underneath your Focus. The first thing you want to do, remove your belly pan, then you want to disconnect your downpipe and the rear motor mount. Arcade's going to give me a hand with the installation. While I'm moving all the bolts up here to remove the belly pan, he's going to remove this brace and then part of the exhaust system here so we can get to our downpipe. We're going to reach up and disconnect our O2 sensors. All right, now we're going to get the clamp up top here that holds the turbo to the downpipe. We'll release that V-band clamp and remove the downpipe. Make sure as you're removing the downpipe, be careful of the oxygen sensors that you don't damage them. I'm going to drain the coolant and remove our lower tube from our intercooler. So to do that, unbolt the splash pan and we're going to remove that out of the way. We have a stock intercooler piping or a cob like we do. The process is basically the same. To disconnect the bolt up here at the cooler and the bracket to get the pipe out of the way. We're going to move back up to the engine bay. We're going to move the cowl so we can reach the turbo easier in the back, get rid of our cold air pipe, and take the coolant cap off so we can drain the coolant. Just pull up on these panels, remove them. To remove the cowl, you have to remove the wipers. Pull this little rubber cover off and remove that bolt. You want to mark up and down where they are, because when you put them back on and you don't get them right, it can be kind of a pain to get them straight again. Kind of want to sort of rock them back and forth to get them loose, and then you can pull them straight up. Covers off, you can remove the bolts that are located below them. One on each side. Then remove the cowl, push these little clips in, and lift up on that. And do the same thing up here with the windshield, kind of get your hand underneath and lift up and pop off. To remove our cold air pipe, Arcade's going to get the bolt on this side And you squeeze a little piece on the back here to remove that, and then I'll get the clamp down at the turbo. Remove the coolant cap now to make it a little bit easier to drain the coolant. To drain the coolant, just put a hose on this outside nipple here and loosen up the petcock to drain it. The next step is going to be to remove the motor mount. This is going to make it a lot easier to get the stock turbo off and pretty much mandatory to get the new larger turbo in place. Now we'll just slide this back with the bolts off the chassis, the bolt off the mount here. That'll give us enough play. We're ready to start disconnecting the turbo now from the engine. Eventually we'll take it off the flange. Before that, we disconnect the oil lines and the coolant lines. The first thing we're going to do is disconnect all these vacuum lines you see over here. What I recommend doing when you take these off, label where they go. That'll make it a little bit easier when you put it back together. Label the wastegate one, the intake, the vacuum, all the main lines. That when you put it back together, you have a rough idea of where everything's going to go. The rest of the lines are attached to the turbo, so now we can just connect this plug. That's all we have to do as far as these vacuum lines over here go. We're going to start disconnecting the lines. We're taking off the drain line that goes from the turbo down to the oil pan. Make sure you get a catch pan because you will lose a little bit of oil when you take this off. We're disconnecting it from the turbo side as well. You don't actually have to do this, but it'll give you a little more room to work when taking the turbo off. The oil drain disconnected. Now we'll move on to the other side of the turbo. Take off the bolt for the oil feed. And keep a drain pan handy. You might get a little oil out of this one. Okay, we're going to move on to the coolant lines. We're going to start with the one at the block right above the turbo. And have a pan handy, we'll get a little bit of coolant drain. The second coolant line comes up to the engine, kind of over towards the driver's side. See, it's the smaller line over here. We'll disconnect this clamp here and remove that next. Now we're going to move on to the turbo flange. We're going to start by taking off the heat shield. We're going to remove the two coolant lines right here on the turbo as well. You don't have to do this, but taking these off makes it a little bit easier to get the old turbo out. And now we're going to remove the four nuts and remove the turbo from the flange. Pull down the turbo, and you can pull it out. You can see the comparison between our stock ST Turbo and our new turbo from ATP. Obviously the flange and the inlet's much larger coming off the exhaust. The air inlet on the turbo is twice as large, and you can see the compressor size is night and day difference. This should definitely make a lot more power than our stock turbo. We're going to begin prepping our ATP Turbo for installation by installing the coolant return line. It's going to go on the threaded side. It's basically the same size as the flange that connects to our engine. Take the banjo bolt with both washers. We'll thread it in. We're ready to put the turbo up on the car. You want to remove this fire ring in here. Make sure that does not fall out. You're going to need that to seal the turbo properly against the manifold. For the turbo mounter, we're going to move on to the oil feed line. That's the one we removed from right over here. Start by grabbing this applied fitting from ATP, and we're going to thread it in. Now we'll tighten that down. Just get it snug, you don't have to kill it. Now I'll grab the oil line itself. We're going to assemble this end of the oil line first, but don't tighten it down. Just thread everything together, get it finger tight, because the line may have to be twisted a couple times to get it to go right where we want to do it. It'll be easier if these lines are loose to do that. We're going to put the right angle fitting we just assembled onto the oil fitting we just installed. And just hand tight for now. Route the oil line over and thread that on. You want to make sure the line for the oil does not touch the turbo or the housing in any place because it is hot. Once you have everything clear, go back and tighten it up. Now we're going to install the factory oil drain. When it bolts to the block, use the original hardware. Where it bolts to the turbo, there's two of these step-down studs you want to thread in place first, and then you can bolt it on. To install the studs, grab the supplied nuts, just thread them in place. Now we can get a socket on there, and you can thread the stud in. Now we'll put the oil line on. Don't forget the gasket that's supplied with it. We're going to move on to the coolant lines now by installing these two fittings for the coolant line. One's going to go to the turbo itself, the other one goes to the block. This 45-degree fitting is going to go on the fitting we just installed on the block. And we'll leave it the line facing upward. Now we're going to install the stainless line. The 90-degree fitting goes to the turbo. The other end goes to the 45-degree we just installed on the block. And make sure everything clears the outlet for the downpipe and tighten it down. This is the coolant line that's going to replace the one that went up to the driver's side of the engine. What we do start here is put this fitting on. I'm going to tighten that down, then get a rubber hose and put that on next. Now we're going to fish this back up to the driver's side of the engine. Before we can start doing the vacuum lines, we've got to remove the boost controller and all the lines off the original turbo. The way this is going to work, we're going to have to add two fittings to the car to make it work. This is the stock setup here. This line here, which we labeled already, is going to go to our wastegate. This line here is going to go to the charged side of the turbo, and a fitting we're going to add in a couple minutes. This one here will go to the non-charged side of the turbo, again, in a fitting we're going to have to add. And this line here is going to go to the original line coming off the intake manifold. Now we're ready to install our fittings. This elbow here goes to our cold air kit. So this is a non-charged side. One fitting is going to be installed in this. This other line over here, this is actually the charged side. This is the one that goes out to our hot side pipe that goes to our intercooler. The other fitting is going to be installed here. And that will go on an existing fitting on the car to the intake, and again, that one goes to the wastegate. Now we're going to drill the holes for our fittings we're going to install for vacuum. Before you do this, you want to make sure you put this on the car. Make sure you have enough room. Wherever you drill the hole, you want to make sure you can reach this fitting. Also make sure it's not up against anything and you have plenty of room to get a vacuum line to it. Once you get the fitting on and tight, install one of the provided C-clips. That hose is ready, we now set up the other one. Here's basically the setup how it's going to work on the car. You made the length of the lines to make it work. Like I said, this line here, you can see goes to our cold side. This is the air intake tubing. This one here goes to the wastegate, which is already installed on the turbo. This one here, this is the hot side piping. This is the charge pipe that goes from the turbo down to our front mount intercooler. And that one goes to the factory line coming from the intake. The other line coming from the intake, which went to the factory blow-off valve, we're going to block that off and add a separate line later for the blow-off valve. These are the two vacuum lines that come down from the top of the engine. This one here is our intake vacuum we're going to use. This one goes to our factory blow-off valve. So this one, what we're going to do here is remove this line and plug it up top here. You can actually plug it at the bottom if you wanted to, but removing the line, let's make a cleaner installation. The reconnected original line we'll be using to the back of this block. I'm just going to cap off the line with the original blow-off valve since we're not using that anymore. I'm going to go back under the car and start making our connections. Now we're going to connect the supplied adapter we just put that fitting into. This is going to go to our Cobb cold air intake. This goes to the turbo side itself. And don't tighten anything down yet, just get everything in place roughly where it's going to go. We're going to see how our vacuum lines are going to fit. Now we're ready to put it on the car. We test fit it. These are the length of hoses we're going to need. This one's going to go to the fitting we installed in our cold air kit in the elbow. That's going to go to our wastegate. That's the longer line, so it kind of goes over the top. This will connect to the factory line coming down from the intake. This line here will go to the fitting we installed in the hot charge pipe going to our intercooler. Once you have all the vacuum lines connected, don't forget to plug it back in. And what you want to do is tie it up out of the way since the factory bracket is no longer here. What I do is tie it up here, the brake line, just get it safely out of the way, but none of the lines are going to hit anything. Now that all of our vacuum lines are connected, we can start putting the car back together. We're going to start with the motor mount by putting the bolt in here and reconnecting it to our engine. We're going to reinstall the intercooler pipe that goes from the turbo over to the intercooler. When mixing parts together from different aftermarket manufacturers, this sometimes happens. Our Cobb pipe didn't quite reach up to our new ATP Turbo. So what we did is simply cut it right here and put a new coupler in to lengthen it up so it reaches properly. In the next step of the process, we're going to reinstall our Cobb down pipe. Start by putting the clamp on the new turbo, pipe up into place. Again, be careful with the oxygen sensors. So once you have the pipe bolted down, now we can reconnect our oxygen sensors. Get the down pipe installed, now we can reinstall our cap back. Exhaust installed, now we can reinstall the bracing underneath. And now we're going to move back up top, start reassembly up here with our cold air kit. And now we're going to finish off the engine bay by reinstalling the cowl, the wipers, and then finally our engine cover. We mentioned earlier that the ATP Turbo kit will require you to install a new blow-off valve. We picked up this Exhale kit from CPE that includes the pipe that goes up from the intercooler to the throttle body and this killer Tial blow-off valve. This kit is meant to work with either CPE's core or to work with a stock intercooler. Since we're running a Cobb intercooler, we'll have to modify this kit to make it work, but this will give us the pieces we need to finish the installation. We're going to be replacing this pipe here. We may need to use part of it. We're actually not going to know until we get everything apart. Again, since that kit's designed to work with a different style intercooler than we're currently running. We're going to remove this, and then we need to add a separate vacuum source, which we'll show you in a minute. Here's what we have currently on our Focus ST, and these are the parts we have that we're going to basically have to make work. Like we said before, you can't expect every aftermarket manufacturer's parts to work with other pieces. Sometimes you got to get a little bit creative. The basic shape is the same. What we're basically missing is this elbow. So what we're going to do is cut a section off this factory pipe. Be able to put these two elbows together. That should give us the clearance we need. Before we can put it on the car, we're going to assemble the blow-off valve and install it on the pipe. Start with a vacuum fitting. Put a washer on each side of this. So get that hand tight for now. That way we can adjust it when it's on the car. Give us a little more play as far as where it goes. Okay, now we'll go find a vacuum source on the car and then we're ready to install it. There's several places you can get vacuum. In our case, it'd be the perfect solution with our Cobb Sound Symposium Elite. When you install that, there's a port right on the top of it where you can install a vacuum line, which will work beautifully with our blow-off valve. This is the assembly we came up with that'll work with our particular Focus with our Cobb frontman intercooler. We're using a CPE pipe and their elbow. Just add another piece of metal in here and then use the factory Cobb piece to go over to the intercooler. Once we test fit this, we knew we wanted the vacuum line to point downwards, so we tighten this up before we put the assembly on the car. We're going to fish the vacuum line down from our source up top and connect it to the blow-off valve. We're going to refill our coolant. Okay, with the coolant topped off, we can reconnect our battery. We can start it up and check for any leaks. We started it up, checked for leaks, everything's good. Now we can reinstall the belly pan and the installation's finished. The ATP Turbo upgrade kit made the Focus a lot of fun to drive. We do plan on dynoing this car in the very near future, so if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss future updates.